as usual, I didn't prepare. Sometimes I find it better just to be, you know, I don't know, impromptu because I'm formulating so many thoughts about my circumstances. For those that don't know me, my name is Treva. And if you haven't been following my story, um, I have been under severe cyber attack. And there might be a few people doing it from overseas, but most of it has come from my very own community because of a decision, well, partly because of a decision to walk away from my faith. And I mean, I still, of course, believe in God, and and I prayed to Jesus Christ, but I had reasons why I felt like, well, now that we have forensic science and there's ways to discover truth, I felt like it was the right thing for me to do. And I'm not here to sway anybody. But and if I were, it would only be to be sure to educate yourself. I'm not trying to attack anyone. In fact, I'm the one that's been attacked by many of you. And no matter how hard I've tried, if I say something that YouTube or the government or somebody doesn't want to be shared, then I get my my views are reduced, right? I'm shadow banned, which I've been, and my messages don't get out because somebody wants to control the narrative and they want me to say what they want me to say, which 99.9% of the time is really not the truth. I have a lot of mixed feelings. It's, when I was targeted, it wasn't just being targeted by religion or the faith. I was targeted by the devil too. I mean, I felt like I was caught in this storm and I was being blasted from both sides. So both sides were against me. There wasn't a side that really was for me. They were against me. And I had made the mistake, I guess, of telling people early on, which, didn't seem like a big deal to me at the time. I guess I should have really thought that through, but is that, I have extremely powerful intuition. You can call it whatever you want, clairvoyance, whatever. but I do. And, and it's really funny too, because even though I knew that I had that ability, I never once thought that other people didn't too. And so, and I'm probably right. You probably do, but you have to, for me, I have to be in alignment. I have to be in alignment with, what the truth is. I'm not somebody that tries to do this in an evil way. My intentions are pure. They're good. I care about people. I don't want to harm anyone. And I would never use whatever abilities I have to do anything to harm anyone. And I think that by now everybody knows that, I've been under surveillance for a while and I never had any criminal background. It just seemed like all of a sudden my whole life just got ripped out from under me. And even though there's aspects of it that I'm grateful for, there are some aspects that I'm not grateful for, because while I found out that no one I've ever met, whether they be family, friends, religion, or maybe there's a few out there, but I don't really know exactly who. But most of the people that I've ever known in my whole life were willing to be bribed by a famous person, somebody that had the power of persuasion. They were willing to go, or even bribery or money, they were willing to go along with the narrative to harm me. They were made promises to harm, for their futures if they were willing to compromise my safety. The reason why I think they were willing to do it this way was because I was diagnosed with a terminal illness, and I was supposed to be gone by now. I was supposed to be dead by now. But I outlived it, and their patience, and so they had to come up with a different strategy, because here I am alive, and so many crimes have been committed, to steal from me, hurt and harm me for at least more than a decade. Well, really my whole life, but intensely the last 10 years. That the only choice they had since I was still alive was to defame me, because they went before a judge. Okay, I guess I can backtrack. Okay, I'll backtrack. I went through breast cancer, as most people know. I mean, I did. I went through breast cancer. And then I went to Italy, which, by the way, when I was there and at the beach, somebody had shuttered my friend Anna's camper, and they stole my purse. They didn't steal her purse. Why would they not steal both our purses? I don't know. But they did only steal mine. So clearly somebody in Italy had has my passport. And there's probably mumbo jumbo going on over there, because they were able to, they had my passport. They would have all my medicines. They would have, everything about me, in my purse, So who knows how all that happened, but it's interesting. All of us are raised in families, and we trust our family. We never think, for a minute that our own family would betray us. It's just that, they can call you stupid or naive and all this stuff that you didn't know. But, but when we trust people, we're not walking around like a PI thinking, oh, well, you must not be, you know what I mean? It's like there has to be some reason for us to question people that we love or that are in our lives. We usually don't, it doesn't cross our minds. Even with faith, it doesn't cross our minds. We give people the benefit of the doubt. We want to believe them because, believing others, believing people, and believing in, okay, this is the truth, this is not the truth. I mean, we navigate our own personal safety based on what we think is tangible or real, right? And so we're not going to go out of our way to question, something simply because people have lied to us, right? People that we trust, like, family, the church, your employee, people that, they have certain legal obligations, that you assume, and I do say assume, that, they're not going to do anything that's going to, be so outrageous that they're just going to violate their own company and put their name on it. You'd think that they would have some sort of, degree of integrity and want to stay out of trouble, right, for the most part. And so, but the thing is that, when I came back from Italy, long story short, I was hired by a man that had a lot of medical issues, and I, was hired away from a company. I was caregiving when I came back because I really didn't want to go back into accounting. I mean, I'd done the accounting thing, and I really felt like, because I had been through cancer, I just felt like, I really wanted to help people, because I know how treacherous going through something like that is. And I went through the whole thing. I mean, I lost my hair, I lost my natural breasts, I went through the whole gamut, with intensive, chemotherapy, only to come back from Italy and have my doctor tell me that the cancer was back. And I have, I have a few different splotches on my spine and on my pelvis. And, and I went to the hospital and had a procedure where they scraped the bone to see if the cells were, growing, if they were living cells. And so according to what my oncologist told me, he definitely confirmed that, they were living cells, and, on this tumor that was on my spine, right? On my pelvis. And I had slurs, in my spine. So, I had, and he was a very renowned oncologist too. He's the best the best in the area. Without going up to Huntsman Cancer Center, Dr. Bott was the best, and so, I had no reason to doubt what he told me. And he did actually prescribe me, the medications, the Kisqali and Verzenio, which I chose not to take because it's just like, after you've gone through chemo, there's a part of you that just doesn't ever want to do it again. You never want to do it again. And so that's kind of how I felt. So when I had taken these medications for, I guess it was about a week, it was just draining me. And my intestines, I was bleeding when I was going to the bathroom. It was really hard on my physical body to take those medicines. And, I have a video that I did when I did a GoFundMe, because I was trying to raise money because I wanted to go to Mexico because they had a treatment there where you didn't have to use chemo, and they had a way to, put you on a plan that would heal your body more than going on these drugs, right? And so I did that, plus, a group of people from Club 90, and my cousin helped me, and we did, a fundraiser to try to raise enough money to go so I could go to Mexico. Well, anyway, by the time it was done, there wasn't enough money, but I did invest in cryptocurrency. I invested in Forex. And I realized that the guy that I invested with Forex, I realized he was stealing from me. And so I don't know if London got the message, but I reported it. I wrote an email to London, and I contacted them. I think, this is the person, this is who, I invested with. And now I can't log into my account with Forex. And so, so I felt like I was scammed. I was scammed, right? But all of it was intended for me to be able to go to Mexico to raise those funds. And during this period of time when I was working for my boss at that time, who was, I guess he would have been a little bit younger than my own dad was, right? But, he was really a hermit. He didn't have a lot of people in his life. And when I started to take care of him, he was really, really immature because, he was so private. And he had worked for the government. He worked for Dugway. And he was in the Army, he had a Purple Heart. And he actually got shot by his own platoon or whatever in a training thing, in a training exercise that they did. And he was shot in the shoulder. But he was really very innocent. And, he really was a very strong Catholic. And he was a good person, and he cared. But he was kind of like, if there were earth angels, I would assume Stephen was an earth angel, because he really did care about people, but he didn't really interact with them that much because, he just, I don't know, he was just different, But I remember there's a Thanksgiving that my sons and I, we went to his house and brought him Thanksgiving dinner, and he complained that he didn't like it. He didn't say thank you, God, this doesn't taste very good. It's like he was like a kind of a curmudgeon. At first I go, are you kidding me? Are you saying that you don't like my Thanksgiving dinner? Which is really but he was so used to living out of a box that he wasn't really used to having anybody cook for him or come over. But I think that he appreciated the gesture. But he was really living in a very unhealthy situation. But we became friends, and sometimes I would just go over there and we would just watch TV. He wouldn't want me to do anything. We would just watch a movie, and just the companionship part of it. But it seems like things that kind of got really weird for me. I was singing on Star Maker, and I was posting a lot, on Facebook, And you know, and I am a singer. I sing professionally. I mean, I've been singing since I was a child, right? And it seemed like the more I was posting my music, and you know, more people were enjoying that and were supporting me, things changed. And you know, and I noticed that I was under attack, you know, the more people were noticing me. And then I came on on you. Well, I was on Star Maker, and things got really strange there, and I was being bullied there. I'm sorry, that's what they did. And it was really, and I was getting really threatening notifications, and you know, it was a really precarious environment. And I picked up what was going on within that app, and I don't really want to focus on that entirely. However, you know, they had a kind of a system where they were going after really the, you know, pretty girls, young girls, you know, getting the youth involved, you know what I mean? And, you know, and of course, in any kind of environment like this, and I would consider it like a sub-society, a subculture, where there's a whole different city and subculture within the app, just like there is really on YouTube as well, right? And so, you know, but I picked up on what was going on, and the players and the prostitution, you know, and the pattern behaviors, and how they were bullying me, and then I would go to customer service and they wouldn't help me. My address being, you know, exposed on the app, you know, and but the threats and the energy. And I was, you know, I was really kind and supportive to they know that I was really good to everyone. I was very kind, but it got this situation I understood was becoming really dangerous. It's dangerous for me. And so when I left, the people from that app actually came over to Smule. I went to Smule and went to YouTube, and all of these people got together to target me, to block me, stop me, you know, bully me verbally, not give me the support. I was, you know, and I had told some people, you know, some people I trusted, you know, on Star Maker, which, you know, I mean, there's a few people I trusted, and I told them some personal things, and boy, they just really exploited me. But anyway, I told somebody about my, you know, powerful intuition, and that I could I could tell what was, I mean, in detail, what was going on there. I could tell. And so, but when I left, they knew that, you know, I could potentially sue them. And so they came after me to intimidate and hurt, harm, blah, you know, whatever. But they even went further than that. They got people to actually get involved with with the community that I'm in. They got, you know, other celebrities to come to this community. And, you know, people that you would, in a heartbeat, you'd be persuaded by, right? You'd be persuaded by them just simply because of who they were. And you would never question it, right? So if they said something about me that you didn't know, you would never believe me, not at first, right? But what I don't really want to go in the details, because I've talked about this in other videos, pushing me out of the places that I lived, you know, making sure I was set up to lose the truck, you know, just certain, you know, then set me up suddenly to try to lose my SSDI, because, and I had every right to be on that, because, you know, I was told that I was diagnosed being in stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. Doctors have to sign off on that for you to even be able to get SSDI. And then the rumor going about saying, changing, you know, I learned that there were HIPAA violations, that they were trying to call me a liar. Here, that was one of the scams, was that they were saying I was a liar, like that Gibson girl who said that she had brain cancer and she was helping all these people, and come to find, and then she was faking all of it, you know, she never had cancer. They were trying to paint me into that kind of a scenario, and that they did a documentary of me, and that I died. They had to create this documentary, first of all, to tell, the first thing they did was to tell them that I had died, which I never did. And then when they figured out, okay, well, she's alive now, so now we're going to say she's crazy, and we are her caretakers. And so we need to have this, power of attorney over her because she's not able to take care of herself. Oh no. Oh, and by the way, she has HIV. Really? You know, when I was a member of my church, I went to the temple, and when I went to the temple, I really did keep the covenants. And I don't sleep around. I have, I have been married several times. That is true. I have a knack for finding the wrong guy every time, right? But when you consider who and how I was raised, and we all have a tendency to marry people that we are, I don't know, it's just, if it's the same toxicity you were raised with, sometimes if you're not enlightened, you kind of fall into those same scenarios, right? But I had really tried, and embraced going to the temple, and I did it, trying to do it right, and to live a clean life, and I have, and but then I find out that my ex-husband took a videotape of us intimate together and used this to and told people that I was soliciting. I had learned that an employer said I solicited him at my job. All of this, and then, but as things were unfolding and people were telling these lies about these horrific lies, and I find out that plus of course they're stealing money. They stole money from Star Maker and stealing from YouTube and blocking my views so people don't see me. You start realizing, and when you find out your whole family, and that was another thing. I caught when my Facebook and YouTube were being hacked. When your phone's being, when you're being tapped and hacked. But it was really weird because they could go in and unfriend themselves, and I watched them do it. I knew. And their attitudes. And here, my cousins from Alabama come all the way up here, and for whatever reason, they don't even want to see me. You would think that they at least want to see me, right? But there was some, and I'm very, I'm very good at auditing. I'm very good at looking through situations meticulously. And and it's like, okay, if I were to tell you the sky was green and it's not blue, you would automatically know that was a lie. That's not true. Let's say you've never seen the sky before and I told you that, that's kind of like what it is, when I hear the truth or a lie, I have a way of knowing whether it's a truth or a lie. Sometimes, no, it's different though. It's different because when you trust people and you give them the benefit of the doubt, then it was easy for me in the beginning to brush off my doubts. But I notice patterns and how people act. And I know how, I was raised with these people, so I kind of knew, what they were like and what their attitudes were. So, that wasn't confusing. Because for me, it's easier when you know somebody because you can really pick up who they are, what they're all about, what they're capable of, good or bad, you kind of get an idea, right? And you also know, what they're capable of in a negative way. So it's not really hard to tell. And if somebody comes in that has got clout, that's somebody that you respect, you automatically are going to want to believe them. And they know that. Okay? These people that are in these power positions, they know they're credible. And that they can come and use their degrees or their fame or whatever it is to come out there and, tell other people who you are. And it's really weird too, because you would think the people that know you best that, and I talked about this in one of my earliest videos. It's like, if you are around somebody or you worked with them or you grew up with them and somebody tried to come and say that you were something you were not, it seems to me that you would know. And that's where the bribery came in, right? Because they had to pay people, promise them something. Love, money, opportunity. And to be able to rub shoulders with these important, powerful people. And that how incredibly powerful that influence is. And how it puts us in this really precarious predicament here online. And as we're all conducting our business lives here on YouTube, if you don't go along with the way things just, it's like, okay, I used to write procedures for a company. And people, and people are really, they're creatures of habit. A lot of them don't like change, right? So when you write a new procedure, it's kind of like, you're uprooting things, right? But, but I learned, I have been through so much change. I've moved several times. I've gone through different stages of my life. It's just, so change wasn't really that big of a deal for me. But, but when you're writing a procedure for a company, you're trying to think about better ways to get a better end result. The old ways aren't working, so we got to get a better end result. But when you've got a structure like online with YouTube and Star Maker and places like that, where there really is there's an administrative element there. But those guys in my situation had an agreement, and I think they do here too. They have this agreement. We get to decide who the guardians of the galaxy are. Who are you, Earthling? You're just a mere little ant in our world. Well, I'm not. and the thing is that if it is so strict and so structured, and so if the big people can completely manipulate the little people to the point where you can't really conduct your business in an authentic way. You can't. As long as you stay within these parameters, right? You're buying real estate within the app, right? But if we don't like what you're saying or what you're selling, we can just shut you down. We're going to get a group together. Yeah, we're going to get a whole group, and we're going to shut you down. And no one is going to see you. Unless you're speaking the narrative or validating what they've said. Well, when you consider our youth, new people coming in, we need to have a situation where we are still navigating within parameters, right? We don't want people going, batshit crazy on here or anything. But we also don't want good information to be stifled, especially when we are trying to conduct our businesses here. And I was a target for a crime because an app knew that I had evidence to sue them. I didn't sue, and they wanted to keep me without money so that I couldn't sue them. Because remember, I'm on SSDI because of my cancer. And so it is behooving them to make sure I stay stuck. You don't hear me, I stay stuck. But, but this is illegal. It's obstruction of justice to do this to someone, right? And don't you know that if they can do it to me, that they could do it to somebody else? If we're going to be on this online community, which is very much tangible, it's very much the 3D. Some people think that being online is like being in La La Land, right? That it's not real. But I assure you, it's real. And trackable, traceable. It's very real. You're seeing me here in my little office, right? I have a right to live and breathe the air, to share the air with all of you. And so do my kids, my family. So what was that all about, right? There's some things they didn't want me to find out. And the fact that I was finding out really was freaking them out, because I kept saying, what in the hell is going on here, people? And I kept saying, something's wrong here. You know, I'm watching what's going on with my Facebook. I'm watching people friend and not friend. I'm blocking people, but yet they can still come into my space. And it was just strange, you know. And I called the police, and I emailed, different attorneys, and said, and then I had somebody tell me, you have an inheritance that you didn't get, that people are stealing. And when I heard that, I knew it. I knew it because there was already so much going on. And so I called the police. I said, look, something's wrong. My family is attacking me. Why are they doing that? And I knew it. I saw it. I saw it happen. I knew their energy the last time I talked to them. I knew they were keeping secrets. There was just no question in my mind. And I even told them, I said, look, I did an IC3 with the FBI. I think there's something going on with Star Maker. Don't trust them, okay? But they wouldn't listen to me. They didn't hear me. No, they didn't, And so, and if you're getting somebody powerful to come in there and sway you, that's their whole career, was to sway people, then, you're gonna listen to them. And every little bit of the truth about a human being could completely be swept under the rug, right? While they're busy stealing their work, becoming copycats. Because remember, I'm supposed to die, and they want to pick up where I left off. So that they want to be me, and do my thing, because I found out, that either I was switched at birth, but somehow came into this family in a nefarious sort of way, that I really don't belong to their family, and that who my dad and mom were supposed to be are not my mom and dad. Now, I mean, that's hard enough, because my parents never told me I was adopted or anything like that, right? Oh, but it's deeper than that. There's a reason, because they were receiving payments, like child support payments, just to keep me. Who has an adoption where they keep getting paid to keep that child? It's really strange, right? So and I'm not going to go even in more detail about that. But I really don't owe anybody anything. You came after me, and and we're all here trying to conduct our business, and I would like to say, but I noticed that there's a lot of people going over to Patreon. And so if YouTube doesn't protect us here, sooner or later, they're going to lose that power. They're going to go someplace else. New apps will be created, and it will fall apart if you don't protect people. Now, there's another thing too that's really, there's so many people out there that are using religion as a weapon. They're not using religion to uplift people as much as they are using it to shame you. You shouldn't be using any kind of religion to shame people. It seems to me that it would be better to encourage people. But with me, in my case, because there was illegal surveillance and they wanted to get my personal life, they created video and false evidence and all this stuff, because my ex, who is an attorney, participated with this campaign, because he stole equity from a place that we lived. He found out about my inheritances. He wanted to make sure I didn't get any money, because they had already committed so many crimes. And I'm telling you what, this man was abusive. And when I left, and I've told you this in past videos, when I left, it was vital to my safety and that of my children, which my children, not even one of them, belonged to him at all. They're not his kids. And he had committed already by that time so much fraud. In the name of God, that woman is so evil. And nobody ever asked me, nobody ever stopped, even the FBI. I remember even writing something about that on Facebook. It's like, if you want to find somebody that's going to go after you and say bad stuff, go to an ex. Okay? That's a surefire way to have, somebody talk bad about you, is if it's a disgruntled ex. Never talked to the guy again when I left. 2008, never talked to him. Saw him once in court in 2012, haven't seen him since. But he went and actually said that I had died. He took out a death benefit for me. Got life insurance and said I was dead so that he could get all the money, which, yes. And now that I'm alive, And so even though the court all knows this, right? How do you, after all of that, how do you go back? Well, now that we know that she's alive, we don't want to get in trouble. So now we've got to do something to really defame that woman. And they used religion to come after me and to shame me, to make me pretend, to actually make people, to bend your minds, to make you think that I'm somebody I never have even considered being. And especially not crimes like this. This is insurmountable shit, man. You know? And so, and now that I'm chosen, it's either I'm chosen because somebody was interested in working with me. That's one kind of chosen. But now they want to come and say, I'm chosen, like I must be the returned spirit of Jesus Christ. Are you kidding me? Oh gosh. Even if that were true, do you really think I would want that kind of responsibility? I really don't. You know, because I'm human and I make mistakes, and anybody would know already that that would be me being a fraud if I even tried to be anything remotely like Jesus, because I'm not him, and he hasn't come back yet. I'm a woman that tries to live with integrity. Am I perfect? Oh, hell no. Do I want to be perfect? Oh, hell no. I do not. I don't. I don't want that kind of responsibility. But I can guarantee you this. I'm not a liar. Okay? I can own up to my decisions and how I live my life. I don't really have the shame that people want me to even have. I don't have that. And then I knew when Unstoppable thing came on, I never signed anything with Tony. I figured that out. I never did. But however, there's a few things I'm grateful for. But I'm not grateful for having AI make false evidence made to look real. I'm not okay with my ex-boss, Josh James, helping them do that. I'm not okay with Elon helping them do that. Now, there are some benefits to the situation. I do realize that. And it isn't like I don't want to help with science and help people. But I wasn't given an option, and the humiliation. And then they want to come and call it like this hazing or this, you have to go through this hazing before you can be a part of what, some sort of Masonic group that I never wanted to be a part of in the first place. I'm not an Illuminati kind of person, especially not when it comes to sacrificing people or animals. No. Oh, hell no. In fact, I might be the Illuminati police. I don't align with any of that at all. And so I can clearly see how I don't exactly fit into your structure, because I'm not somebody that thrives on just being part of a clique or a group just to get acceptance. I'm okay in my own skin. It's really okay for me to be me. But I'm in between a rock and a hard place, because not only did I find out that I'm a part of this family, there's a crime involved with how my family, how I came about to be in their family, right? But I also had, for what I understood, I know that my dad's cousin JD, who was, he was just about the same age as my dad, right? They were, because George was the youngest, but Verda, his sister, she was the only female girl in the Richardson family, but she was the oldest, right? And then JD was Verda's son. And so I already knew that Kent knew about, Asheville, North Carolina, and he came over there to help, Victoria and them all, steal that, whatever was JD's. But, and even though I was the beneficiary of all of that, right? And other things too, right? And yet they want me to turn the other cheek after they went so far to humiliate and defame and to destroy my personal life, even now. And now they still want to try to call the shots before they give me what's legally mine anyway. They want to call the shots and maneuver that. I don't owe these people anything. And they still have to do the right thing too. Oh yeah, they do. Now, I'll try not to name too many names, but the clock is ticking. You must return what you've stolen. There must be restitution for the slaughtering of my character. Of course. And if you want to you know, have a conversation, I'll consider. But I'm not going. I'm not your scapegoat. I'm not willing to get kicked around, nor am I willing to be, a willing participant in an MK Ultra project because they're so scared half shitless because I figure stuff out, and so they put me through all kinds of rigorous, painful, really emotionally hurtful situations, only to find out that I was telling the truth about my spiritual gifts the whole time. And now, and even though, yes, that's cool, it'll be very cool to see the results of the testing. And yes, maybe I'll be interested. But you still need to write me this great big fat check. Oh, yes. Listen, I'm not fooled. And there's no way I'm your footstool. And I'm not going to go out there and pretend like I'm the reincarnation of Jesus or Mary Magdalene to appease you. Because I have spiritual gifts that you don't have. And maybe I am. Who knows? But I'm certainly not going to let people abuse religion to get off with crime, to get away with crime. No. Because when they put you in that situation, they want you to be, well, you're so Christ-like, Treva, you should just forgive us. It has nothing to do with forgiveness. Sure, there's a part I want to, and I can intellectually, but they never planned on me surviving this. They thought I would be scared and would just shut up, right? But I have no reason to be scared. Do you know why? Because I'm willing to tell the truth. And because I can do what I say I can do. I can sing really well. And, I'm pretty intuitive. I'm not lying. I don't have anything to worry about because I'm not the one conniving deception. What's that for me to worry about? You guys are more in trouble than me. You're the one that came after me. I wasn't coming after you. But I'm not going to just let you beat me up either. And you better get busy with writing that check and bringing me these original documents, telling me exactly who my parents actually are. I am more understanding than you could ever know. And if it wasn't for the fact that I already knew that they didn't want me to get to this point, because they were for sure that I would just back off and that I wouldn't even try. They'd be too scared, right? But I have nothing to be scared of. In fact, you know what? I had a death sentence just from Dr. Bott telling me that I was going to be dead in 6 years. So death for me meant something else. I wasn't scared of that. I'd already made friends with that. That's why I started singing, because I'd already made friends with death. And so I started singing my heart out until I wanted to sing until the day I died. And I told you guys that before, right? So if somebody wants to come after and threaten my life, you can do that. But you'll get caught if you harm me. You will be caught if you harm me for a second longer. You will. Now, justice must be served. And I'm willing to look at the data and what you have to say, but still, there's restitution and compensation that even in a friendly reconciliation that I deserve because of the hurt and harm and hell. Just imagine if you had been a kidnapped child or switched at birth, and then suddenly people find out who you really are. And that's the last thing they want to tell you because they're busy stealing from you because you're a trust fund baby. And so they're not trying. So Homeland Security, are they rushing in to help me? Oh, hell no. Because they want to steal the loot instead of help me. They want to help other people get away with this. And can you imagine what that does to a person's heart to think that? And I was a beautiful baby too. I was a beautiful baby. And a really good person. And you have to do the right thing here, or our whole government would be like down the tubes. You have to. And you better hurry too, because it's going to get worse. People are going to really pick up on it. You have to do the right thing. And when we're here navigating, on social, on this online business things, You really do have to be good to your patrons. You know, they have all of these laws. They have all of these laws that protect the app, and so very few that protect the patrons. That needs to be changed. Because I'm telling you, and I know that there's so many others that are manipulated or shadow banned or struggling to try to get going on here. And, you know, and all of us, you know, especially if we're parents, we know we want to have a safe environment for our families and our kids. And so this isn't just about your stature, you know, what kind of leadership position you have, because I think we can all agree that we want to be fairly safe here. Because if we're not, then eventually people are going to fall away and they're going to go to a different platform where they do feel safe and heard and supported. They're not going to stay someplace where they're being bullied all the time and blocked and stopped. And I have to beg almost every single time to even post a single post to get the information and the evidence out that I need to give investigators, internal affairs, just in case somebody might really care about their jobs and what Americans stand for and our freedom of speech. And my right to live and exist. And if somebody made me the beneficiary of anything, more than one too, I think somebody said like 4 of them, you know, that they can just come in and steal it and just commit that fraud and keep me in the dark so that they can pass the statute of limitations, right? But the whole way it all went down is it was a fraudulent court in the first place. You know, probate would have to reopen the case because of the fraudulent way that they all handled all of it. It was really a fake, false court. It wasn't good. It lacked complete integrity. And so they have to go back, dig it up, open it up, dust it off, and start all over again. All over again, because you all lied. You set this up. You never thought I'd figure it out, or that I would even survive this level of heartbreak. But after a while, you realize that, you know, you love yourself more than you love frauds. That I'm not going to sacrifice myself or my own life and that what I love to do for any of you. No, I love me. I'm a great person. I'm so happy I'm me. I'm so happy I'm me and not you that got involved in this. You have no idea. It's like, yay, yay me, boo you. Seriously. But I've given you some information. You really should think about it, YouTube. Because, you know, we need to be able to come here and be safe and not have, you know, government, police, you know, keeping people from speaking what they're going through, especially when it's involving sex trafficking and trafficking like they did me. And that's exactly what this is, because they wanted to cover up the fact that, you know, the wrong people got a hold of me as a baby. And you'd think that, especially, you know, Americans, Christians, they want to help you if that happened. They wouldn't want to get in the way and put you through this insurmountable test to prove that you're crazy or something's wrong with you, to appease the courts, right? That something's wrong with you. So now that we know that she's not dead, you know, whoever it was, they kind you know, that wasn't her, you know, there's so much crime involved surrounding the situation. And I still don't even really know for sure who or where I belong. And they act like they want to put the carrot in front of my nose. We're not going to tell you unless you do things our way. Screw you. You need me. You need me. And expeditiously. Yeah, we're watching the clock. I'm a nice person. I'll be nice. But you are doing this to a human being, a person. And I deserve to be heard. And, you know, just the fact that there's only like one person right here, you can't hide me. You have to come clean. You have to do the right thing. For people on this platform. For me. For the United States. Hello? The military has, and the community I live in, they're up shit creek without a paddle. They are. There's so much fraud that's going on around me. And it was all because they wanted to steal. They found out who I was and I didn't know because my mail was stolen. Forced me out of my living spaces and wanted to pretend. And they had no intention of giving me what was mine. But because I figured some things out, then they realized, yeah, we're going to have to help let her in on this, you know. But I'm not going to take a portion of what's already mine. It belongs to me. Okay? So I really expect people to understand that, you know, I'm in this position where, you know, I'm not going to help you sacrifice me. That would be silly, right? Of course not. I'm not helping anyone sacrifice me. No. I'm the best person I know right now, and I hope I meet somebody else similar to me. I hope I meet a lot of people that resonate with me and understand exactly what I'm saying. If you've been stopped, blocked, lied to, betrayed, bullied, for any reason, whether it's because, you know, you're psychic or it's race, religion, whatever it is, you have a right to have a voice. And YouTube knows that. They know, and you can't use religion to shame somebody to get rid of them. In the name of God and religion. Boy, they really laid that on thick too. I'm not going along with that. I would never. I know who I am. I'm not ashamed of being me. And I know what you did. And I know why you did it. And I'm not uncooperative. I'll listen. But you can't take advantage of me anymore. I look forward to meeting you, agents, and reading the truth about who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing. Have a nice evening. The clock is ticking. It's only fair. Something that you never considered. I'm being more fair than you've been with me. And I owe you absolutely nothing. Nothing. Okay?